All right, this is recording 797. The name of my podcast. This episode is called Listen Next 797. You can find me at ChristinaStation918.com or speakingtothecia.com. They both lead to it's both my website because people don't know how to pronounce Stacia or spell it. So, Speaking to the CIA podcast by Christina Stacia is easy to find. Okay, so I'm continuing on from the last recording. So moving from 10050 CeeLo Drive to 3301 Waverly Drive. Okay, so here we go. All right, so first thing I want to point out is, Sharon Tate's name, okay? So I've already decoded this before, but I forgot about it. And then someone just pointed out in my brain, look, this goes here too. So, so the number 8, you spell it E-I-G-H-T, right? But it's pronounced, it's a homonym. You pronounce, even that, she did that too. So, you pronounce as 8, A-T-E, okay? Like you ate something. Okay, 8. Okay, so anyway, if you take T and the number 8, okay, the number 8 breaks into 2 zeros. So really it's a 30, okay, because it's 15 and 15 is 30. So anyway, the number 8 is also the infinity symbol, okay? So, and it's also used as cuffs, handcuffs. Okay, and this has been this way. I've decoded all of this all throughout since Jean's reign of terror since the late 60s, and then her predecessors all the way back, her hiding underneath everything. Okay, so I'm just catching up to speed with this. So if you take Sharon Tate's last name, if you take the letter T and then you take 8 and you change it to an 8, the number 8, okay, so it's a T and then the number 8, so that's Tate, right? Okay, so that equals too late, okay, because in the word two is 2-0, so there's your 8, so see, it's 2-8. Okay, so too late is inside Sharon Tate's last name. Also inside that is tool. So T-O, so you take 2 and then you take the L from late. Okay, and you guys also know late and date, late for a very important date, Alice in Wonderland. She uses the whole Alice in Wonderland theme. You have your CL code. All this is all based on Alice in Wonderland. It goes all the way back to the beginning of the Bible. So anyway, my life is based on Alice, and Jean is the Queen of Hearts. Okay, you're going to see all my podcasts on this. Okay, so anyway, okay, so inside the tool, okay, so the tool, if you take, that becomes TDL, okay, so Toodle, so because she's doodling, not Sharon Tate, Jean Roberts, where she wrote Death to Pigs on the wall. And it's just like when she did the World Trade Center attack and she iced the scene and set up the scene in the classroom, arranging it using eyes controlling the classroom, and it said reading makes America great again. And then some of her other murders, she writes commie pig, she writes, and then she writes on everything. Okay, so it's doodling. So TDL is also toodle. So what do you say when you say goodbye? You say toodaloo. So, or toodaloo or toodaloo or how, and then toodaloo, toodaloo or toodaloo. And then, so that means goodbye, okay? And then also note, Julian Lennon came out with that song, It's Much Too Late for Goodbyes. Okay, and then also, boobs. She's got a whole boob theme going on, which might have probably belonged to the military and the mob. I don't know. It seems like they could have done both. And And then Gene Robertson or Manson occult underneath everything, undermining everyone, ripped it off and did it for themselves. And then, but anyway, so Boobs, and then Boobs is also Tatas. So Tata is another way of saying goodbye. So, okay, so keep going with this. So Toodle, then Doodle, then writing on everything. Okay, so Doodle also goes to Days of Our Lives. Remember I told you she iced my mom and my whole family. She's robotic technology on. She stalked us all our lives. And remember my mom was like hopelessly addicted. My mom loved soap operas. Stop making Olivia Newton-John references. Jean thinks she's cute because she thinks she's getting away with this. She lives in a private little world where she has everything censored and she doesn't pay attention to any of your podcasts except what she has her paid delivery people censor and turn around, and then she turns that around more, and then she commits terror attacks and all kinds of other crap. So she does not realize 8 billion people have your podcast and know that Gene Roberts is guilty for committing the World Trade Center attack. So, okay, so anyway, so part of her planning of doing the World Trade Center attack is around my childhood when I was in the 70s, and she uses soap operas that my mom watched, okay? So one of them, like I told you, was Days of Our Lives. The initials of Days of Our Lives is DOOL. So you're going to see, I've got all that I decoded all that on paper, but I've decoded a lot more on paper since then, and then also electronically. So I'm just fast forwarding you through this to keep you up with this. So you know instantly this goes back to that bit of decoded ciphers that I did, decoding Gene Roberts planning to do the World Trade Center attack using the Days of Our Lives, okay? So in that is the dueling Daltons, okay? Remember that? Okay, so the dueling Daltons also goes to this doodle, so it shows you that she pre-planned to do the World Trade Center attack, which you guys already know. I told you she planned to do it in the early 1900s, but her and her Manson occult were planning for this as they formed the Manson occult and went about committing those murders. Those were probably, like I told you, probably all sacrificial murders. So you can see how she's planning to do the World Trade Center attack, and it is in here. So also inside this is Dude Ranch. And then also you want to seal code Rooster. Remember I decoded the, there's so much in my brain. I've decoded so much, so much. But specifically regarding the rooster and regarding the direction of north, south, east, and west. And then, you know, she also uses a Wizard of Oz theme here, CL code Wizard of Oz, that the directional north, south, east, and west, and then how that overlays all kinds of things, all kinds of clocks and all kinds of directionals. Okay, so, and then combining that, I figured out she's got a terror dial. And then I was able to decode the last date of the last terror attack when it hits midnight, and the last time would be 6. Remember, 6 p.m., but I don't know what. Like, you're going to have to go to the podcast. I'm not going to go on another rabbit hole with that. You're just see the podcast and listen to it, all about that. Okay, so anyway, so that goes to the rooster cock-a-doodle-doo. Okay, and then that also goes to Yankee Doodle, so New York Yankees. So again, Gene Jernigan Roberts and her Manson occult did the World Trade Center attack. Okay, so back to specifically this address, 3301 Waverly Drive, and I'm already like ready to take a break. There's so much there's a lot to this podcast. And then, okay, so she also used, in picking this address out, 3301 Waverly Drive, okay, so you can tell by her choosing this address that she stalked the victims of this address and literally iced them to move into this house at this address, and then she killed them. because none of this is coincidence. Okay, so anyway, in choosing this address and stalking the victims of this address, she used the phrase making waves. She probably also used amber waves of grain. She probably also used that. Okay, so more to this. So I do cross reduction and I figure out more ciphers in this. So inside 3301 Waverly Drive is, I'm going to read this off to you, IMTLOAS, Time Wand, and then she has Taiwan in there. Patricia Kremwrinkle is in there. Wrinkle in Time is in there. Patty Hearst is in there. Timlin is in there. And Timlin is my stepmom's last name. They were from Ohio. Remember, my dad was married to Beth Timlin. Okay, so Timlin is in there. So again, it's showing in Gene Roberts stalking the Timlins also. MIALOST is in there. Missing in Action Lost is in there. Mint Loads is in there. Okinawa is in there. Oklahoma is in there. Loft is in there. And remember, one of these houses where she committed these murders, the top floor is a loft, okay? So you're going to want to see all code on that. So you can see her pre-planning to do the World Trade Center attack with that because of the ladder and then going up to the loft. And then all the way back to then later than I'm born, and then when I'm a little girl and I live in Globe, and then I fall off the bunk bed and the Fisher-Price airplane and all that. Okay, so Loft is in there, Float is in there, Seoul, Korea is in there, Laos is in there, Taos is, TAOS is in there again, and then Shalom is in there, and then Shallow is in there. So I don't know what she's doing. She's probably trying to appease to, because she loves to do that. She loves to blame everything on everybody else. So she's probably trying to blame the Jewish community, but yet the Jewish community knows that she committed terrorism against the Jewish community. I've turned her in and have decoded several crimes that she has committed against the Jewish community, such as the Jewish Tree of Life attack. Okay, and I'm not counting I'm counting all of it, from all of the single terror attacks to all of the big ones. And the big ones gets where she gets inside military and meddles with the military. And she does that with every military in every nation around the world. She's got access to stolen artificial intelligence. So the military can't just military anywhere, not without Gene Roberts and her Manson occult trying to control everything. So, and all I can do is figure out where she is hiding and trying to control, because I decoded her whole, her whole Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones. Okay, so her whole Game of Thrones plot where it's family lines, but she's posing as a member of every family line. And then she's singing a song and dance to the Illuminati. Oh, this is all your guys is doing. We're just helping you. No, she's writing those demonic ciphers and she's icing people to do what she wants. And then she's got a whole get away with it all plan at the very end. So, and she's using them as an umbrella and as a funder and a hideout, just like she does the military. Blame everything on the military and then hide under them, just like she does everyone else. Okay, so Shallow Toastmasters is in there. And my grandpa Stacia was in Toastmasters. Smite is in there. SMITE. I've decoded that several times in very old ciphers. And these are very old ciphers that I'm decoding here. So MTL SOA is in there. Military Soap. And then Soap Opera is in there. And then also The Edge of Night is in there. And then you're going to see all my podcasts use The Edge of Night as a theme in doing the Nixon Watergate scandal. She committed that scandal she did that to Nixon. She did the whole thing. I decoded it, and I figured it out from the Edge of Night soap opera, and I decoded all of it. Lie soap is in there. LYE soap is in there. As the World Turns is in there. Turn, Turn, Turn from the Birds is in there. Turns Place is in there. And then tiles, so turns tiles. Remember I decoded turns tiles, and I'm like, this is in here, what does this go to? And I'm like, it has to go, when I'm processing in my brain, I'm like, has to go to her committing the first World Trade, because there were 2 World Trade Center attacks. Okay, the one in 2001 that everybody knows about, but she did one years before that Osama bin Laden was blamed for. She did that attack. She is the mastermind. He's caught, and she's not. She's running around acting like she got the hell away with everything, and she brags about it in my brain that she's going to get the hell away with everything. And she's still running around committing terrorism. So the first World Trade Center attack, I think, is what the turnstiles go to because the bombing was in the basement of the World Trade Center. And I think that's where like all the, it's the only thing I can see in my brain of those things that you walk through, the spinny things that you walk through when you go to get on the subway. But anyway, decode that all the time, turnstiles. So there's turnstiles there. So Turns Place, so that's in there. And she also makes another reference to Louisiana. She uses Laplace in there all the time. And then there's also a plaza like that in Globe, Arizona that she uses too. Soviet is in there, USSR is in there, Commie Pig is in there, Russian Roulette is in there. Then later on, she routes my dad into Oak Harbor, Eden Isles, so that's in there. And then tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. Okay, so that's in here. So that was for the 1979 Iran hostage crisis. So this is a cipher that she's building on over time. Okay, so that's in here. Okay, so moving forward. So Jean, I'm going to report a crime here. So Jean, another crime. This is a present day one. So I saw this in the news the other day, and I was like, Jean committed that crime. She keeps messing with them. So this one was in Oslo, OSLO. Oslo is currently grappling with the aftermath of a March 2026 terror investigation following an explosion at the U.S. Embassy with 3 suspects in custody. So she committed that crime too. Okay, now, another thing that Jean does that she thinks is funny, and she thinks she's like cute, like using all these puns, and then she uses music and media, and then these ciphers, and then she goes and commits crimes or lies about committing crimes, which is also a crime around legit. Everything is like cliche, syrupy, just freaking hilarious, and she runs around committing crime like that because then she has something to blame it on. Oh, it's them. It's them, they did this. When some of it, she just like flat out just lying. So anyway, so you guys know what WET stands for, how she uses the anagram of WET. It stands for what everybody's thinking. Okay, so this is what she is doing when she ices people. She's wetting, and then also wedding, like marriage wedding. She's whetting her appetite. So she's basically like, she's acting like she's a cop. She's not. And she's using ice to get inside people using robotic technology. And she's looking through their eyes, and she's controlling their bodies. And she's controlling everything to get what she wants, including assaulting anybody she wants, either the direct person she's in that she's controlling or anybody that she's eyeballing. She's whetting her appetite. She's a witch. And even that WH, she's a witch. So, also see code, Jean and her little husband, Jeffrey Epstein. I decoded her wine bottle. I love me some Drum Major. That was on the wine bottle that she custom made and put on my dad's wet bar. Okay, so I decoded the whole thing out. And in that, she is literally talking about being married to Jeffrey Epstein. I decode the whole thing out, and I keep decoding it. She has a lot of husbands, and Jeffrey Epstein is one of them. So she also did this. In Epstein's name, she's using EPT, that's a pregnancy test. And then also inside Epstein, she's using, this is another thing she did, Epicurious. So Epicurious has to do with food. Gene traffics babies, children, and adults with food, okay? Everything food related. If you see anybody doing anything like abusive or stupid with food, you might want to just like know who they are and find a way to turn them in. Because she's using that as a guise to pretend to be a hero when she's really just doing what she's always done. She's selling babies, children, and adults with food. She's always done that. She just found a new way to do it because now she's posing as a savior. Well, we're just using this a new way. No, you're not. You're doing the same damn thing you've always done. You're a predator, and you found a new way to like munnify your little freaking your you know what. So anyway, okay, so Epicurious is in that. So then also her controlling my mom's marriages. So my mom married my stepdad, Jeff Cook, and so then by no coincidence, and my stepdad's last name is Cook, so another food reference. And then also my mom's courts when I was little in Globe, when we lived on East Street, there was a kitchen table and there was a shelf, and then on the very top of the shelf that the kitchen table was against, my mom had a really big, gigantic, cool piece. It was an open rock of quartzite, and it was gorgeous. So anyway, I decoded the quartzite, and there was so much fascinating stuff that I decoded out of it, on top of also decoding Gene Roberts stalking us all of our life. But I decoded a ton of stuff from it. Anyway, she was using the quartzite. She's icing my mom. My mom's just got it on display. Okay, like we live in Arizona. You're going to see Southwestern everything everywhere. So my mom just got a decorative piece. It's regular, even that decorative piece. So you're just growing up, you're just living life. You don't realize that somebody is using stolen artificial intelligence on you and stalking the shit out of you. So she's using Sergio, because that's a geode. And then my stepdad before Jeff, his name was Sergio. So, and it was at the top of the shelf. So she's using probably because she's probably trying to act like your mom to someone. She's probably got another channel of lies that she's lying, because she keeps Gene Roberts lies about who she is. She keeps saying she's me, Christina. But she says she's my sister also. She says she's the Guadarrama. She says she's all kinds of people. Gene Jernigan Roberts. She's got this, she pretends to be anybody and everybody. Okay, that's her whole shtick. So she's probably lying to somebody somewhere, God knows where. And she's probably pretending to be your mom and acting like her mom is like putting your stepdad's head on a top of a pyramid. I mean, and she's probably selling that lie somewhere. I guarantee you she's doing something stupid like that, because there are people, it's still hard to get people to understand. Gene Jernigan Roberts is my dad's ex-girlfriend. She's a leader of Charles Manson. She is a Caucasian woman. She's in her late 70s. But she's got this whole hideout and all this stolen artificial intelligence and computer graphics. She disguises herself as anybody and everybody. But in the regular world, where regular people have access to the internet and can see and go to my website and make reports, but she still has dumbasses suckered covering her ass there too. But I mean, you can't save dumbasses. If you want to be a dumbass, you're a dumbass. Now, if you want to be a dumbass and somebody's life gets taken because your dumbass wanted to protect Gene Roberts instead of turning her in, that might be an issue to a victim somewhere, which you might be held accountable. But again, I don't focus on any of that. I turn in the leader, Gene Jernigan Roberts. because the CIA can deal with all the who's who and who's what and who did what. So anyway, so she's using that as a third geode. So then also, here's something else that was pointed out to me. This is like another thing that'll like creep you out. Okay, so she iced my first grade teacher, Mrs. Parker, Jean Roberts did, and Mrs. Parker called my mom when I was in first grade, and out of the middle of nowhere, she asked my mom, we were living on 306 East Street, she asked my mom if she wanted to sell her house, and my mom was like, is you crazy? My mom was like, are you nuts? Like, we're remodeling this house, we love this house, and who do you think you are? You are a teacher. You are a teacher. You are a first grade teacher. Why are you calling me trying to sell my house from underneath me? Why are you doing this? Like, my mom got really super pissed. So anyway, so all that's all decoded. I decoded all of that too. Okay, so anyway, in this whole ice incident, that was a sign of looking back in time and remembering that Mrs. Parker did that is a sign to the future, which means Jean Roberts has purchased real estate there somehow, some way. So, and that's one thing you don't want is Jean Jernigan Roberts of Milton, Florida, purchasing anything anywhere there. And you especially don't want her purchasing any houses that we lived in growing up. Like, Jean Jernigan Roberts needs to be arrested for terrorism, trafficking, stalking, and treason. So anyway, it's just super, super creepy. So she was like screwing with my mom. So that's the end of this recording.